Chu Mingyu couldn't bear it any longer and said, I haven't finished playing with him yet. You two aren't allowed to touch him. The two Rakshasa demons immediately rubbed up against Chu Mingyu, whining that they were hungry. Chu Mingyu playfully hooked the white Rakshasa's chin. You can eat the one we just dragged out. Then, she asked what happened tonight. The white Rakshasa told her about two people trying to sneak in. They have at least the ability to use earth-shielding magic, or are powerful demons. As he spoke, the two Rakshasa demons rubbed against her, making the scene unbearable to witness. Chu Mingyu only thought the emperor didn't trust her, not realizing Chu Jun was investigating her. The Chu family had a tradition of selling their bloodline. Outsiders thought it was for Chu's descendants, but every bloodline seller was captured by the emperor to be turned into supplements. Even the talented Chu Yi, who from back then was turned into sustenance for his brothers. Chu Mingyu had learned the secret from the Rakshasa demons. Therefore, she wouldn't follow their path. With the help of the two Rakshasa demons, she would increase her cultivation and kill the emperor, becoming the ruler of the world. Speaking of, one person, two demons, three shadows tangled together. The white demon bit into Chu Mingyu's shoulder, absorbing his essence. The black demon sucked his life force, the scene chaotic and horrifying. After a moment, the black Rakshasa demon said that eating ordinary humans was not enough. When will those two little ghosts arrive? Chu Mingyu wasn't worried. She would wait for Chu Mingyu and Chu Mingzu to reach a high enough cultivation before acting. The white Rakshasa licked his lips, reminding Chu Mingyu, it's time to have them hand over the complete yin-yang. This time, they must give up everything. Chu Mingyu's eyes narrowed. After this, he'll meet the preceptor. The next morning, two workers dragged a cart towards the back of the mountain. The trail was lined with bloodstains. The cart carried a body covered in straw. The servant, who had been by Chu Mingyu's side. The two workers talked. This is the Th1 this month. They call it a dream of flowers, but when they dig it up, it's just a skull. No one wants that. Chu Jun, hidden in the dark, saw this scene. Mumu also sensed the stench of death on those two. They won't live long. They did too many bad things. They will naturally get their retribution. Chu Jun said indifferently. Chu Jun used a magic to peer at the straw-covered body. The strong stench of blood made Mumu's nose wrinkle. Seeing who it was, Chu Jun was surprised. He died such a horrible death. She moved directly. From the grass on the cart, she sensed the remaining demonic energy. It's indeed from those two Rakshasa demons. They ate people in half a month. Their appetite is so big. Ordinary people can't satisfy them anymore, right? Chu Jun suddenly turned to ask Mumu, was it a coincidence that Chu Mingyu and her brother were sent to the royal villa? Or did someone intentionally send food to the old hag? Mumu felt a shiver. If it was intentional, only their father, the emperor, would have the power to do so. Chu Jun scoffed coldly. The Chu family's tradition of killing each other is truly ingrained in their bones. They could just kill people with a thought. You're so dumb, you're as soft as a sack, and call yourselves princes, along with a princess. Seeing who their enemy was, they were actually, just as Yan Su and Chu Jun were about to leave. Mei Fugui, like a fired bird, ran over. Yan Su protectively held Chu Jun. My wife can't be taken by others. Mei Fugui crashed into the wall. According to Mei Fugui, the Grand Princess manager had found Chen Qiu to demand the yin-yang jade. The two were now arguing fiercely. Chu Jun suddenly grew interested and decided to go take a look. Check. Fu Gongong angrily said that the Grand Princess needed the yin-yang jade for cultivation. The Jinyao Temple must hand it over. The yin-yang jade has escaped. The Jinyao Temple can't just give it away. It was obvious that he was treating them like fools. Fu Gongong naturally disagreed, but the yin-yang jade already had 4 horns cut off. How could it escape? Chen Qiu calmly said, does Fu Gongong know how General Shu Wu died? He caused trouble at the Jinyao Temple. The preceptor was displeased and had him vomit 3 times at the entrance. When Shu Wu and the preceptor were mentioned, Fu Gongong's face turned pale. Still, he stubbornly said, you're fabricating lies. Chen Qiu smiled mysteriously, pointing at Fu Gongong. Oh dear, the demon that killed Shu Wu is here. I really want to see it wreak havoc again. When Fu Gongong turned his head, Chu Jun and Mei Fugui were behind him, looking at him coldly. Fu Gongong suppressed his fear and stood up. In any case, this is an order from His Majesty. He then fled with his servants, but Chen Qiu did not plan on letting him off. He told Chu Jun to follow and beat him up. Chu Jun asked, pretending to be hesitant, really beat him. Here's the Grand Princess man. Qianqiu confidently patted Chu Jun's shoulder. Go on, unless you're afraid. Chu Jun didn't hesitate any further, as it was what she wanted as well. Mei Fugui followed, as he never missed a chance to watch some drama. After walking out of the Zhenyao temple, Fu Gongong was furious. Damn Zhenyao temple! Threatening me. He turned his head, about to tell his men what to say when they got back. Suddenly, a sack covered his head. Chu Jun and Mei Fugui started beating him up. You want to eat the yin-yang jade fish? You want it? You want it? As they were hitting him, they heard someone calling them from behind. Chu Mingyu and Chu Mingzu looked at them, shocked. What are you doing? Chu Jun and Mei Fugui didn't hold back, handing the sticks to the two. Chu Mingyu and her brother were confused. What's going on? Chu Jun pointed to the sack on the ground. This is Chiang's mission. Just hit him. Chu Mingyu didn't understand, but since it was Chiang's mission, then they had to do their best to show off. As they spoke, the prince and princess didn't hesitate, hitting the sack with great force. Chu Jun did this to protect Chu Mingyu and Chu Mingzu, securing their safety from the old woman's wrath. If the two fools died in the royal villa, Chu Mingyu would be the prime suspect. Let's see if she dares strike again. After a while, Chu Mingzu stopped, feeling her hand was sore. Chu Mingyu also stopped fighting. Another hit might kill her. The person in the sack finally had a chance to speak. Fourth prince, fifth princess, why are you hitting this old servant? Chu Mingyu and Chu Mingzu were instantly shocked. That's Grandma's servant, Fu Gongong. Did we just beat someone from Grandma's side? Are we going to be in big trouble? Chu Mingyu was sweating. He thought, we're done for. Chu Jun snatched the stick from Chu Mingyu's hand and said, you guys were too gentle. He's still talking. It should be like this. Chu Jun then struck the sack ruthlessly with the stick. Chu Mingzu yelled, stop it, but after the blow, the sack was silent. He's out. Chu Jun casually told Chu Mingyu, fourth prince, what are you doing? Hurry and share the burden of your royal grandma. Drag this man away. He fainted. Chu Mingyu was numb. Suddenly, a hand patted his shoulder. Yan Su appeared behind them. You better listen to him. He's saving you. Chu Mingyu was confused. Chu Jun's actions clearly offended the Grand Princess, so how did he save them? Yan Su patiently explained, there are two evil demons by Chu Mingyu's side who use humans as food. You two were targeted. Chu Mingyu and his sister were shocked. How is that possible? Chu Jun moved closer to Yan Su, whispering, as expected, you know everything. Chu Mingzu asked Chu Jun, is it really true? Chu Jun said, what's impossible? Do ordinary people taste as sweet as the Chu family? Didn't you experience it in the village? Chu Mingyu and Chu Mingzu were stunned. After a moment, the two carried Fu Gongong's body and went gloomily towards the Zhenyao temple. Chu Jun was still thinking. She said she was going to make me a monster's food. She declared to my face that she likes someone else, and also said her own husband's taste was hard to please. Tang Tang, the demon emperor, didn't show any signs of being hurt. What could he do? Of course, he would pamper his wife. After dealing with Fu Gongong, Chu Mingyu and Chu Mingzu carried the body back, their faces full of disbelief. Today's events had shattered their worldview. They needed time to process. Back at the Zhenyao temple, Fu Gongong was directly brought before Hu Dabiao. Hu Dabiao looked at the sack and asked, is he dead? Chu Jun squinted her eyes and said, half dead. Chu Mingzu and his brother looked at Chu Jun, shocked. He's not dead. Chu Jun nonchalantly said, after all, you need to leave a way out for others, right? I was gentle. Hu Dabiao also realized that the disappearance of people might have something to do with the Grand Princess. And this eunuch was important. He couldn't be let go, but also couldn't die. Chu Jun understood. Dabiao knows a lot of things. It seems this task was deliberately given to us. Hu Dabiao, without changing his expression, to deal with the royal family, you need someone stubborn. Chu Jun looked at Hu Dabiao and asked, Dabiao, why were you visiting the demon tribe? Hu Dabiao was sent here because of this. But he was calm and rational. He said he was protecting the common people, not serving as a dog for the powerful. He said the demon tribe was also protecting the peace, and some demons were no different from ordinary people. Chu Jun understood and had more respect for Hu Dabiao. She didn't hold back her feelings. Dabiao, I'm really liking you more and more. Let's go help you take care of your business. Yan Su immediately reacted badly, and asked, "Are you using the word like so casually?" Chu Jun didn't notice Yan Su's little thoughts. She said, "I really do like Hu Dabiao. What an interesting person." Yan Su was speechless. Mai Fugui seriously replied, "Little Jun, you like Dabiao's type. Your taste is unique." Chu Jun suddenly remembered that Hu Dabiao was demoted for visiting the demon tribe. So why was Xiao Wei being demoted to Bai Zi? Yan Su told him to not pry. Chu Jun started guessing. Could it be related to the emperor? Chu Mingzu and Chu Mingzu were startled and quickly told Chu Jun to be quiet. Lin Su had no choice. She pulled Chu Jun aside, explaining, "At the beginning of the year, Hu Dabiao was escorting some captured members of the Southern Sea Demon tribe. On the way, he released them, so the emperor ordered Hu Dabiao to be executed. The Jinyao temple stepped in to protect him, but while he was spared from death, the punishment was unavoidable. The emperor's personal eunuch, Li Chun, personally destroyed Hu Dabiao's cultivation." Chu Jun understood. Sending Hu Dabiao to Dingziyuan was actually to protect him. Yan Su continued to explain, "The tasks in Dingziyuan are not too dangerous. Hu Dabiao has the position of instructor, so as long as he keeps a low profile, no one can touch him." Chu Jun asked, "Was this the state preceptor's idea?" Yan Su denied it, saying that she didn't know, but Chu Jun guessed 7 or 8 points. Besides the state preceptor, who else could it be? After investigating in the city for a day, most of the missing were men under years old, and they were all from wealthy families, many of them disappearing from their homes. Chu Mingzu was confused. If it really is the Grand Princess who took these people, then what is her goal? Chu Jun felt that there were only so many handsome men in the city. When the demon's stomach was hungry, they would naturally come out to find something to eat. Chu Mingyu and Chu Mingzu were frightened. Chu Mingyu nervously told Chu Jun, "You need to have proof for these claims." Chu Jun explained, "That's why I brought Fu Gonggong back. He's a person, but now I also need the actual evidence." Only now did Chu Mingyu understand that keeping Fu Gonggong alive was all part of her plan. Chu Jun felt tired of talking to him. "I don't want to explain anymore." Mai Fugui knocked on Chu Mingyu's head. "Little Mingyu, your brain isn't working. Isn't this an easy concept to understand? Little Jun wants to turn the corpse into a demon to avoid the old woman's side using him. It's also to see if there are any of the old woman's helpers in the Jinyao temple." Saying this, he pinched Chu Mingyu's face. "How can you only grow in height and not intelligence?" Chu Mingyu instantly felt his IQ had been insulted. It was okay if Chu Jun was smarter than him, but the person who just spoke was Mai Fugui. The female demon and her demon emperor husband had gone sightseeing. The princes and princesses followed them to watch. All along the way, there were girls enthusiastically greeting them. They were all particularly welcoming to the beautiful demon emperor. One beauty even offered him instant noodles. The female demon asked her husband, "What do you think they are doing?" The demon emperor just flicked his eyes and continued eating. The girl cursed, "Where did you come from? You're just here to cause trouble." Seeing the ladies wanting to get close, Yan Su's expression darkened. It wasn't that she had strong self-control, but rather she had heard from He Qing that brothels were like tea houses. The women were selling a service like a business, but Chu Mingyu and Chu Mingzu understood. They were embarrassed to even look at the scene. Mai Fugui, who was initially embarrassed when he came in, had now let loose. Chu Jun whispered to Yan Su, "My wife is mine, so you can all stop thinking about her." Yan Su glared back. The girl sighed in disappointment. Chu Jun had never seen Yan Su this foolish. She couldn't help but laugh. "Funny. My little cousin is so much more interesting." Yan Su was being mocked, but seeing his wife so happy, he smiled too. Chu Jun said to Yan Su with a serious face, "Brothels are full of female demons who eat people and don't even leave bones. They love handsome guys like you. You have to learn to protect yourself when you're outside, okay? Listen to your cousin." After passing through the brothel, the group arrived at a building named 13th floor. There was a Rakshasa ghost's aura here. Someone on the building noticed Chu Jun and her group, becoming instantly wary. "Why are people from Jinyao Temple here?" They immediately informed their master. In the royal villa, Jiaolong was getting some rest. A small note flew in, landing in front of him. News about people from Jinyao Temple going to 13th floor reached the outskirts of the city. It seemed like it was time to move. He put on his blindfold. The demon's face was lit by a cold light. Instantly, his presence vanished. At this time, Chu Mingyu was sleeping. Suddenly, a note flew in. The eunuch beside him yawned, falling back to sleep. A hand gripped Chu Mingyu's neck. She tried to open her eyes, but she was locked in a nightmare, unable to break free. Jialong's hungry voice echoed, "Where is the Chu family blood you're hiding?" Chu Mingyu's face was turning a crimson color. In her spirit, she saw a figure. She asked him who he was and why he was trapping her, but all she heard was a low growl asking where the blood seal was. Suddenly, a bright light shone on Chu Mingyu's heart. It was the bamboo dragon wood. In reality, Jialong, who was choking Chu Mingyu, suddenly released his grip. A look of surprise appeared on his face. His eyes, which had been stolen thousands of years ago, had become a magical artifact of the Chu family, and was now hurting him to protect her. Since it's a disobedient eye, I might as well destroy it, rather than give it to my enemies. Suddenly, a sense of crisis overwhelmed him. He reluctantly retreated, his presence disappearing in the darkness. Chu Mingyu finally woke up. She took a deep, gasping breath. A black Rakshasa's voice appeared in the darkness, telling Chu Mingyu that a great demon was after her. Chu Mingyu slapped the black Rakshasa, angry. "If you come back even a moment later, my beloved life would be gone." The black Rakshasa looked at the place where the bamboo dragon wood was. With this, even a great demon wouldn't dare to get close. Although Chu Mingyu knew that the great demon was after the Chu family's blood, the barrier was not broken. How did it get in? The black Rakshasa grinned. "It's impossible to get in, maybe it was invited." Chu Mingyu also realized something, her expression turning cold. Jialong's room. He took out a pill and swallowed it. He stared at the palm of his hand, expressionless. There was a mark on his right palm, the wound left by the bamboo dragon wood. He had to destroy the mark, or he would be in trouble. His expression hardened and put his hand on the candle flame. One was a world-destroying female demon. One was a demon emperor with explosive power. They had finished their tour of the brothel and started to investigate. And the little demon thought he was hiding well, not realizing that the female demon and the demon emperor saw everything. In the royal villa, after the attack, Chu Mingyu realized Jialong might have a problem. Without any delay, she brought the black Rakshasa straight to Jialong's room. Just as they reached the door, they heard something fall inside. They pushed the door open and saw Jialong on the ground. His palm was burned to a pulp. Jialong pleaded with them to help him, claiming he had accidentally knocked over the candle. The black Rakshasa grabbed Jialong's collar and lifted him up. This time his disguise was strong. Jialong acted like he didn't know what had happened, and started crying out, "Grand Princess." Chu Mingyu was now filled with killing intent. She simply gave a signal to the black ghost and the black Rakshasa understood what she wanted. He put his hand on Jialong's shoulder, his nails digging into his skin. Jialong screamed once, his aura weakening. Chu Mingyu quickly stopped the black Rakshasa, who reluctantly released Jialong. "It's the smell of human blood. This guy is not a demon." Chu Mingyu now knew this couldn't be Jialong. Then who else could it be? She suddenly thought that Jinya Temple must be on their tail now. It was imperative. She turned and asked the black Rakshasa, "Is there anything in the floor?" The black Rakshasa said, "No, it's all just a brothel." Chu Mingyu instructed him to alter Jialong's memory. Then, spread the news that a great demon from Jinya Temple had escaped and was wreaking havoc in the city. And also, find a way to kill father-in-law. Since he fell into the hands of Jinya Temple, he might reveal something he shouldn't. At this point, Chu Mingyu asked He Luocha who went to Jinya Temple. He Luocha said indifferently it was that wimp who killed Shu Wu. Chu Mingyu felt uneasy. That wimp was Chu Quan. He had to get Bai Gui back quickly. From their conversation, Jiao Long heard a familiar name. Chu Quan. At this moment, Chu Quan and the others just arrived at 13. Chu Quan slapped the floor with his staff and shouted loudly, "Jinya Temple is investigating. Everyone gather on the first floor. Anyone who doesn't cooperate will be detained." The people upstairs came down one after another, all disheveled. Some people were surprised. Why is Jinya Temple investigating here? Others were unhappy. They are ruining a good night. The shopkeeper hurried out and asked, "My lords, is there some misunderstanding?" Chu Quan said, "Some demons are hiding inside. If you don't want trouble, just cooperate." Mumu told Chu Quan, "One ghost escaped, the other's aura is completely hidden. I can find it, but it'll expose my presence." Chu Quan smiled calmly, "No rush." Everyone looked confused. The dissatisfied voices grew louder. Some were annoyed at being called down after undressing. Others were worried, reminding them that these were Jinya Temple people. Meanwhile, Bai Luocha was hidden among the crowd, glaring at Chu Quan. He was confident he wouldn't be discovered. Suddenly, he received a telepathic message from Chu Mingyu, telling him to retreat immediately. Chu Junt's followers were very powerful. Chu Quan smiled faintly. "Will you test my enchantment?" Yan Su didn't hide anything and began the incantation. In an instant, a bright light enveloped the entire 13th floor, separating the area from the outside world. The shopkeeper from before was shocked. "Isn't this a spell only the state preceptor can use? How can she know it?" Suddenly, a spoiled young master from a sect stepped forward provocatively. "You're very arrogant. Do you know who I am?" Before he finished speaking, Chu Quan's sword was at his throat. Chu Quan glared at him. "Go on, keep talking." The young master's companions quickly pulled him back. "Are you crazy? She's Chu Quan." The young master broke out in a cold sweat. He realized that this was the woman who beheaded Shu Wu. The demoness was not afraid of anyone. Facing a spoiled princess who spoke nonsense, Chu Quan threatened her, "If you want to die, keep talking." The young master immediately shut his mouth. This woman was Chu Quan, who could kill you at any moment. Everyone was shocked. Nobody wanted to be the next Shu Wu. Chu Quan, holding Fei Fei, announced, 10 demons have mixed into the crowd. Well, check everyone. Those who are clean can go. She let Fei Fei down and told him to find the demons sent. Fei Fei first walked in front of the spoiled young master. That man stuttered, "Princess, I'm from the Dongla Tan family." "I'm not a." Chu Quan ordered Fei Fei calmly, "Not him." Next, the young master sighed in relief and walked towards the door with his servants. He was stopped by Chu Quan again. The young master broke out in a cold sweat. Turning around, he asked, "What's wrong, princess?" Chu Quan reminded him that he came in with 2 followers. The young master blurted out, "2. Oh?" He immediately realized that he was down to 1. At the same time, the follower behind him launched a vicious attack. Yan Su teleported next to the young master and kicked him away, dodging Bai Luocha's ghost claw. Bai Luocha broke through the gap, but he remained clear-headed. "Since I've been discovered, then all of you can die together." Chu Quan remained unmoved. She said to the empty space, "You've been following us all the way. Why not come out and play together?" A few bursts of laughter echoed through the sky. "Ha ha ha ha, little demoness, you're quite the schemer." Bai Gui was shocked. Another voice said, "Little demons dare to cause trouble in the capital. I'll chop off your dog heads and give them to the future toddlers." The figures hadn't appeared yet, but they were already fighting over who would kill them. Everyone looked around, unable to see the source of the voices. Bai Luocha also felt the intense magical fluctuations. In an instant, a divine power bound Bai Gui, making him unable to move, let alone escape. He looked at Chu Quan, defeated. "Chu Quan, don't make me say it twice." "Do it," Zun quickly called out. "Everyone, quickly retreat." Countless talismans flew out. The talisman turned to a flat surface, and Bai Gui exploded. There was a loud bang, and Bai Gui was gone. All that was left was a splattered mess of blood. Everyone was stunned. Chu Quan looked at the red mess, surprised. Bai Luocha had committed suicide. She exchanged a look with Yan Su. They both had the same thought. Bai Luocha's death was suspicious. In the imperial palace, Chu Mingyu was sipping tea calmly, wondering how the situation was being handled. Hei Luocha, while cutting nails, said, "It's taken care of. We erased his memories and sent him to the prisons." Chu Mingyu asked, "What about Bai Gui?" Hei Luocha replied, "He should be back soon." Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain in his chest. He clutched his head and crouched on the ground. The next second, a lump grew on Hei Luocha's neck. It was a ghost. Even Chu Mingyu took a step back. A ghost emerged from Hei Luocha's head. It looked fierce. Gritting his teeth, he said, "I must kill you all." At this moment, a carriage was traveling to the prison. Inside lay Jiao Long. Chu Mingyu's mentioning Chu Quan had stirred him. Could someone from the Chu family have that name too? Even if the name was the same, what did it matter? The person was already dead. Jiao Long couldn't help but shed a tear. Even if he died after living for 1,000 years, he had to complete his unfinished task. "Chu, I will kill them all for you and then join you." They all wanted to be the demoness master. They all wanted to be the demoness master. But the demoness was very clear that she was her own master. Several masters. Unnecessary. After a turn of conversation, 4 voices appeared simultaneously. Zhu Wuweng sighed. I didn't expect that ghost to have such a self-preservation ability. The elders were not incapable of stopping Bai Gui's self-destruction, but they wanted to test Chu Quan's true strength. But Chu Quan could see through their little tricks. Before Chu Mingzu and Chu Mingyuan could greet the elders, Chu Quan leaned weakly against Yan Su. The two hurriedly turned around, alarmed. They saw Chu Quan blink. The two instantly knew it was an act. They understood that it was an act. She bit her tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood. She collapsed to the floor, heavily injured. The ghost's power was terrifying. Chu Quan looked up at Yan Su and said, I didn't expect 4 old experts to fail to stop Bai Gui. Mu Mu was indignant, they were useless. If the master hadn't used the wood binding, the self-explosion would have killed everyone on this floor. Chu Quan said, those old guys didn't want to kill him, they were mindful of Chu Mingyu. Chu Quan was secretly frightened. Next time, they might not hold back. On the surface, she looked pitifully at Yan Su. Cousin, are you also injured? Your hands are trembling so much. Yan Su was helpless and played along. Yes, I'm hurt, Chu Quan continued, you really harmed us. The 4 elders couldn't defeat him. The elders felt ashamed and didn't know what to say. Zhu Wuweng broke the silence, I apologize. Don't be angry. Chu Quan leaned against Yan Su without turning around. She said sarcastically, oh. So weak. The old swordsman pushed Zhu Wuweng aside. He offered a sword to Chu Quan, with this, killing demons will be a breeze. The other 2 elders also offered gifts. Chu Quan was uninterested, turning away and saying, boring. After that, she turned and walked towards the door, telling the crowd, let's go, the demons are retreating. The elders stood there, dumbfounded. Mai Fu Gui and Yan Su quickly followed Chu Quan out the door. After Chu Quan left, the elders discussed, we were too embarrassing. She must be truly angry. Chu Quan had barely left when the elders chased after her. Zhu Wuweng went straight to the point, kid, do you want to be my disciple? Chu Quan knew their intentions, and immediately refused. Zhu Wuweng didn't give up and tried again, but Chu Quan was still impolite. Being my master requires talent. You're not qualified. The elders were embarrassed. They were top experts in the capital. If they weren't qualified, who would be? She dared to offend all 4 of them. The old ghost laughed, so arrogant. I like it. Chu Quan used Bai Gui's words on them, you're so powerful, but you let a demon self-destruct right under your noses. The elders were speechless. Chu Quan continued, were you trying to test my abilities? They nodded in admission. Chu Quan asked them with a righteous face, you were testing me, but what if I couldn't withstand the self-destruction? You let the demons run wild. Instead of focusing on killing demons. You're wasting energy testing me. Besides, the other 10 demons are still at large. Do you have the heart to let them roam free? The elders were speechless after Chu Quan's scolding. Mai Fu Gui added fuel to the fire, little Chu Jun is so kind. She's considerate of all the innocent people. Our lives are also important. Chu Quan said coldly, no wonder Gudaru could cultivate such a righteous spirit. If he were here today, he wouldn't have let the innocent people suffer. This skill is still not up to par. You shouldn't cultivate it. Chu Quan deliberately provoked them. The elders immediately said they would find the demons and let her see their skills. The top masters were called unskilled by this young woman. Little did they know that this woman was the demoness who destroyed the world 1,000 years ago. Chu Quan was just using provocation to make them act. When they heard Chu Quan say their skills were not up to par, the elders angrily promised to catch the demons and show her their power. Chu Quan turned away. Actions speak louder than words. I'm not impressed. Mai Fu Gui agreed. I hate people who brag. What about you, cousin? Yan Su played along. Yeah, me too. After walking for a distance, Yan Su looked at Chu Quan with a smile. Did you just trick them into working for you? Chu Quan smiled. It's good that the sheep come to the door. Chu Mingyu asked. How did you know that the demon was hiding in the follower's body? Chu Quan lied. Fei Fei told me. This made Chu Mingzu curious. Does Fei Fei have that ability? Chu Quan said without changing her expression, yes. Believe in Fei Fei, and you will always win. Yan Su couldn't bear to look and rolled his eyes. He cursed inwardly. Chu Quan's mouth is a liar. Chu Quan continued. Fei Fei also told me that the demon isn't completely dead. Chu Mingyu and Chu Mingzu were shocked. Not dead yet. Chu Quan guessed Chu Mingyu's next move. Even if Bai Luocha was dead, He Luocha was still alive. When Chu Mingyu learned of his servant's death, he would not sit still. She turned to Yansu, "Cousin, what do you think of Chu Mingyu?" Yansu retorted, "When did I ever speak with him?" He strode forward, "Let's go to the imperial palace now." And quickly, the others asked, "Why? Shouldn't we leave?" Yansu turned back and pulled Chu Quan, telling my Fugui and the others to return to Jinyao Temple and report to Hu Da Biao. Chu Jun asked Yansu why the blessing didn't go to them. Yansu said he received a message that Chu Mingyu was assassinated by demons tomorrow. He has entered the palace, but his Luocha ghost is nowhere to be seen. Chu Jun's expression deepened. That old woman moves pretty fast. Yansu continued, before entering the palace, Chu Mingyu sent a monthly offering to the temple, and then had the flower beds of the entire estate cleared. Chu Jun understood instantly. Chu Mingyu wants to destroy evidence, and destroy the poetry hidden under the flower beds. But one thing doesn't make sense. Chu Mingyu wasn't attacked. Then how was that monk injured? Yansu said that Chu Mingyu has a Chu family blood seal. Chu Jun didn't know about Jiao Jialong's assassination of Chu Mingyu, but she guessed Chu Mingyu's intentions. Destroy evidence, and then frame the Jinyao Temple, accusing the Jinyao Temple of failing to manage the demons, causing them to escape, steal blood, and eat people in the city. As for that monk, he was probably used as so-called witness. Chu Jun sneered, "That old woman thinks highly of herself." Knowing Chu Mingyu's plan, Yansu had a counter-plan. The priority is to stop Chu Mingyu from destroying evidence. Chu Jun asked if he had found the Luocha ghost, but Yansu said it was difficult. Now, they can only hope those 4 old men are effective, or else if the black Luocha escapes, many more people will suffer. In the temple prison, after Jiao Jialong was brainwashed by the black Luocha, he was thrown into a cell. The old, red-robed guard suddenly became lustful. "Haven't seen such a fair-skinned boy for a while." After some lewd words, he tried to touch Jiao Jialong. Jiao Jialong slowly raised his head. His green eyes stared at the guard looking to die. The guard was speechless, only saying "you." Then, he spat out white liquid and fell to the ground. Jiao Jialong didn't even look at the guard. He disappeared from the cell. 1,000 years ago, he was a demonist trying to find a chance of survival. In order to protect Fuling, he was crushed by the dragon wood and dragon soul. He believes his interference with his disciples led to his demise. He returned after 1,000 years, with the intention for revenge. But then he heard that familiar name. After disappearing from the cell, Jiao Jialong appeared in the th floor. Nanji sensed his presence and rushed into the room. Seeing Jiao Jialong covered in blood, Nanji was shocked. Jiao Jialong didn't care, asking about Donga. Nanji sadly reported that Donga was eaten by the Luocha ghost. Jiao Jialong was sad, but the priority was to find a corpse with a similar body to his and throw it into the cell. After Nanji finished the arrangements, he asked Jiao Jialong about his injuries. Seeing Jiao Jialong's injuries, he knew his master had probably failed. Jiao Jialong did not care, only saying that they were just superficial injuries. He took the liquid to mask his scent so that he could trick the Luocha ghost. Nanji's expression changed. The liquid is very damaging to the body. Jiao Jialong asked if anyone in Jinyao Temple was taught by him. Nanji told Jiao Jialong that Chu Jun is the princess, who was known for her unparalleled sword skill. Jiao Jialong, unwilling to give up, continued asking if Chu Jun had any special traits. After learning that besides her natural talent, there was nothing special about her, he felt a sense of disappointment. He shook his head and said, "It's just the same name. There is only one Chu Chu in this world." Suddenly, he heard Nanji say that the Princess Chu Jun had a feifei with her. Jiao Jialong's calm heart stirred up. His body uncontrollably trembled. The vow he made thousands of years ago echoed in his head. "Chu Chu, after we go to the demon realm, I'll catch you a feifei," he thought. "Okay, that's a promise," she responded. The past resurfaced, and Jiao Jialong's eyes streamed with blood. Chu Chu didn't like beauties, she liked those with fluffy fur. Chu Jun, feifei's too much of a coincidence. Unable to suppress the emotions in his heart, Jiao Jialong suddenly sat up. "I need to see Chu Jun." However, his weak body caused him to slump forward. Luckily, Nanji was there to support him. He was overwhelmed with anger, and Jiao Jialong coughed up a mouthful of blood. After a moment, he calmed down. Nanji helped him back into bed, urging him not to act recklessly again. If he continued like this, he wouldn't be able to live long enough to recover his blood. Moreover, using the liquid to suppress the demonic energy was like adding fuel to the fire. He would destroy his demonic core. Jiao Jialong smiled bitterly. My core, it's long gone. Nanji was shocked. Your demon core is gone. Jiao Jialong said casually, like it wasn't a big deal. I made a deal with the heavens and sacrificed my demon core. But the heavens tricked me. I forgot what was in that deal. But I think that deal was probably related to Chu Chu. Nanji frowned. What kind of person was Chu Chu? The Chu family were always depicted as ferocious monsters. Humans call them the world destroyers, and the demons also fear them. When mentioning Chu Chu, a gentle expression appeared on Jiao Jialong's face. Chu Chu was lazy, incredibly lazy. Other than not liking beauties, she had so many problems. Nanji was stunned. Master, are you in love? Jiao Jialong asked him to pass a message to Chu Jun. Raising a Feifei is not as good as raising me. Nanji was bewildered again. What is this strange message? Then he sighed. Master must really love Chu Chu. Every time he mentions her, his eyes light up. Nanji was both envious and respectful of this kind of genuine and passionate love. Jiao Jialong's body jerked. Love? Do I know what love is? Love is worthless. Nanji was stunned again, but this time, he was sure that his master was not joking, he was serious. Jiao Jialong said calmly, there are things more precious than love, such as wisdom, such as faith. And Chu Chu is both. I would happily die for him. The cold demon emperor rambled and his eyes were red. Facing the fearless female demon, he decided to cooperate and stir up a storm first. In the royal estate, the black Luocha had already disappeared. Chu Jun violently pushed open the door, entering like it was no man's land. Just as she was about to step inside, Yan Su reminded her to slow down. There's a barrier here. Then, he released his power. The barrier in front of them shattered. Chu Jun gave him a thumbs up. Cousin, you're amazing. You broke the old hag's barrier so easily. Yan Su explained that since neither Chu Mingyu nor the Luocha ghost were inside, the barrier was naturally easy to break. They were ambushed by Chu Mingyu's people, trying to stop Chu Jun and Yan Su from trespassing. These people were no match for Chu Jun. She didn't even want to acknowledge them. She asked Yan Su, cousin, lend me a hand, would you? Yan Su and Chu Jun exchanged looks. He hesitated. He knew Chu Jun wanted to make a big scene, and let the whole city know about this. When Yan Su didn't respond, Chu Jun started to whine. She asked Yan Su with expectation, pretty please, cousin. Yan Su couldn't stand her whining. His calm heart stirred and he agreed. Then, with one hand in the air, and the other making a hand sign, 4 directions sealed, listen to my command. In an instant, massive winds swept through. The wind created a barrier around Chu Jun and Yan Su, protecting them from harm. The guards were shocked. This guy is not that strong. How can he summon the wind god? Before they could think too much, Chu Jun started the next phase. She said with a smirk, you want to destroy evidence. Digging one by one is too troublesome. I will help you. Then, she inserted the peachwood staff into the ground. Powerful energy flowed out, and she chanted, Wood, I command you. Heaven and earth, obey me. Break the illusion, open the tomb. Instantly, a golden light surged, and Chu Jun pushed the peachwood staff down. The ground around them cracked. Countless bones broke through the ground and rose into the sky along with the golden light, reaching more than meters. Even more frightening, the skeletons, which were once hidden by Chu Mingyu, were all hung on high. The guards were shocked. This sudden change caught them off guard, unable to stop it. This demoness is decisive and ruthless. She has cut off the old hag's retreat. The bones buried within the royal estate were now hanging in the sky, exposing everything to the public of the royal city. Even the guards of the estate trembled and collapsed. Chu Jun smirked evilly. She wanted the whole world to witness Chu Mingyu's cruelty and ruthlessness. Even if the emperor wanted to protect Chu Mingyu, he'd have to see if the people agreed. A skull fell from the sky and rolled to Chu Jun's feet. Chu Jun slowly picked up the skull, gently brushing off the dust. Her cold gaze swept over the people in the courtyard. When you decide to be cruel to people, you will pay a price. Yan Su stood behind Chu Jun, staring coldly at the crowd. They didn't make a move, but the terrifying pressure engulfed the entire royal estate. The bones swaying in the sky clanked, and occasionally a few fell with a crash. Wang Zhenxian and Li Zizi, who were chasing the Luocha ghost, also noticed the bones rising into the sky. The two masters were shocked. Those are the bones of those who were eaten by demons. If Chu Jun really has something to do with that demon, this time she's done for. Wang Jianxian then worried if Chu Jun would be okay alone. Li Zizi said that Zhu Wu Wang and Lao Yinggui have already entered the palace. They won't leave Chu Jun to deal with this alone. They'll help her. The two decided to catch the Luocha ghost first. After all, if they can catch this Luocha, they will lose face. Outside the palace, Chu Mingyu looked at the bones covering the sky and was terrified. He had already planned to blame this mess on the Jinya temple, but it was just about to succeed. Now who caused this mess? Li Gonggong reminded him that only the wood power can control the forest. Only Princess Chu Jun is capable of this. Chu Mingyu was in disbelief. Chu Jun was supposed to be in the th floor. How could she be at the royal estate so quickly? This trick was really ruthless. Li Gonggong reminded him, Your Majesty is waiting. We should hurry inside. Chu Mingyu was covered in cold sweat. Now that there was such a big commotion, the others wouldn't just ignore it, they would be in the palace soon. Li Gonggong, knowing what he was thinking, said, Zhu Wu Wang and Lao Yinggui are already in the palace. I'm sure Jiu will also arrive soon. Chu Mingyu's expression darkened. With Jiu's temper, he dared to kill him even in front of the emperor. Then, he had an idea. He told Li Gonggong that he had a secret that he hadn't told His Majesty yet. Li Gonggong turned back with interest, his eyes gleaming. Chu Mingyu reached out a hand, and said he had awakened his bloodline power. Li Gonggong's expression changed. Li Gonggong held his hand, a strange light appeared. He was shocked, and then a sinister smile appeared on his face. Princess, you are very clever, His Majesty will be very happy. Chu Mingyu forced a smile. His plan to get help from the emperor was ruined. He tried so hard to hide his true nature for so many years. He never thought he would end up like this, but now, the only thing he could do was to reveal that he has awakened his bloodline, and use that to his advantage. Inside the palace, Chu Mingyu immediately felt two cold gazes on him. It was Zhu Wu Wang and Lao Yinggui. Without saying a word, they started to accuse him of raising evil demons and harming people. The bones below the estate were the proof. Chu Mingyu knelt down, and with a sincere look, expressed his grievance. He even said that there was a demon that had broken into the estate to steal the Chu family's blood. Zhu Wu Wang was furious. There were so many bones under the estate, those bones are the best proof. Chu Mingyu denied it, and just kept yelling that he was innocent. I am willing to see His Majesty. At this time, Li Gonggong quietly walked to the side of the emperor, and whispered a few words. Chu Mingyu's mouth curled up into a smile. He was sure that the emperor would protect him. He did not believe the emperor didn't need his help. As expected, the emperor's gaze towards Chu Mingyu softened, his killing intent disappeared. After a few moments of silence, he asked Chu Mingyu, You said demons were trying to steal your blood. Do you have any proof? Chu Mingyu said confidently, I have a witness, I sent him to the temple. The demoness has forced the old hag into a corner. The old hag had to say she had awakened her bloodline. Using her as the emperor's pawn was to protect him. He did not want to be hurt by Jiao Jialong's sword. The situation was becoming increasingly uncontrollable. Facing Zhu Wu Wang and Lao Yinggui's questioning, Chu Mingyu not only denied it, but also pinned the blame on Jinya Temple, confidently saying that there was a witness. Emperor Zhu Wu suddenly laughed. A witness indeed. The news has arrived that Mingyu was inexplicably violent, and the inmates in the same cell were frightened to the point of idiocy. Chu Mingyun was stunned. He didn't arrange this. He Luo had brainwashed that Yu Shi, and he was waiting for him to die in the temple. How could he suddenly be dead? Seeing his plan falling apart, Chu Mingyu's face darkened. The state preceptor of Jinya Temple is incompetent. Not only did they release a demon, they even want to frame me to death. The old emperor ordered the use of a truth spell to determine if Chu Mingyu was telling the truth. Chu Mingyu replied righteously, Even if I, the princess, am guilty, there must be evidence. Seeing Chu Mingyu bring up his royal status, the old emperor and Zhu Wu were furious, but couldn't easily condemn him. Suddenly, they had an idea. Jinya Temple also has a witness, your personal attendant, Tai Jian. Princess, do you dare to confront him? Chu Mingyu said without any fear, I have a clear conscience. Of course, I can. The emperor's personal attendant, Li Gonggong, went to bring him. Upon hearing this, a trace of complacency flashed across Chu Mingyu's lips. He knew the emperor was going to protect him. Since Li Gonggong went to retrieve the witness, that person probably wouldn't make it to the court alive. After a while, Chu Jun and Yun Su rushed back to Jinya Temple. Fu Taijian was dead. My Fugue kept stuffing the injured Hu Dabiao's mouth with pills, but Hu Dabiao still kept groaning. His breathing grew weaker. Chu Jun's eyes darkened, and asked my Fugue what was happening. My Fugue pointed at Li Gonggong, saying that the old eunuch murdered the witness, and tried to kill Dabiao. Li Gonggong denied everything, insisting he did nothing. He even threatened my Fugue, advising him to consider his family. It would be better to just be quiet. My Fugue was so angry he wanted to throw up on the old eunuch. You wait, you old fart. Chu Jun quickly examined Hu Dabiao's wounds. His heart was shattered. He was indeed about to die. Pills alone won't save him. Hu Dabiao tried to speak. Chu Jun directly took out a Huwei grass, telling him to be quiet. Save his strength to live first. It was too late for alchemy. Chu Jun stuffed the Huwei grass directly into Hu Dabiao's mouth. Li Gonggong's eyes lit up. The Huwei grass was rare. He never thought Chu Jun would have it and so readily take it out to save Hu Dabiao. After taking the Huwei grass, Hu Dabiao slowly recovered. He looked at Chu Jun, his voice serious. You saved my life. How can I repay you? Chu Jun didn't care. The demon who framed you hasn't been caught yet. There's nothing to thank. Li Gonggong couldn't help but complain. Princess, you're wasting such a precious Huwei grass on a useless person. What a pity, Chu Jun retorted. I'll give my things to whoever I want. You shouldn't interfere. Is it any of your business? Li Gonggong's face instantly darkened. He thought Chu Jun was so arrogant. My Fugue, naturally, was also on Chu Jun's side, mocking Li Gonggong. Your father is dead, yet you still interfere. You're just looking for your death. Li Gonggong was furious. You are courting death. Li Gonggong tried to attack my Fugue. Chu Jun stepped in front of my Fugue. What are you trying to do? Planning to kill a third person in Jinyao Temple. Li Gonggong suppressed his anger, forcing a smile. This old servant was just here to pick up a person. Who knew that the eunuch would die upon hearing the summons. As for Hu Dabiao, he was already guilty. It's not my fault if he doesn't listen to me. He deserves it for being so stubborn. At that moment, Qian Qiu walked in with a fake smile. What do you mean deserved it? If I hadn't intervened, Li Gonggong wouldn't have just punished Hu Dabiao. Everyone stared at Li Gonggong. The young masters were just weak chickens in Li Gonggong's eyes, but their oppressive aura made him feel uneasy. Since the prisoner is dead, this old servant will return to the palace to report, Li Gonggong said. Chu Jun coldly stopped him. Wait, the old demon is rampaging and devouring people in the city. The emperor has already made up his mind to protect him, but with so much evidence before his eyes, the emperor had no choice but to send Li Gonggong to retrieve people. When she returned to Jinyao Temple, Chu Jun knew the emperor was trying to protect Chu Mingyu, but she didn't know the reason. When Li Gonggong was about to leave, Chu Jun suddenly stopped him, saying that she would enter the palace to pay her respects and asked Li Gonggong to wait a moment. Li Gonggong suddenly chuckled, asking Chu Jun if she was sure she wanted to enter the palace now. His Majesty is furious, Chu Jun replied without any fear. If one saves lives, what time would one be picky about? Li Gonggong sneered, letting Chu Jun follow him into the palace. Just as Chu Jun was about to follow him, Yan Su suddenly grabbed her hand. Before he could speak, Chu Jun said, something has changed. I must enter the palace. Yan Su didn't say anything, he just stared at her with worry. Be careful, and don't reveal anything. Chu Jun gave him a reassuring look. Then she turned to follow Li Gonggong's footsteps, waving to Yan Su. Wait for me to come back. Yan Su knew Chu Jun's personality, and could only sigh helplessly. Then, he told my Fugue to return to the Yun residence, and watch over Shi. He told Chu's family to stay in Jinyao Temple, and not to enter the palace. After finishing, he turned to Qian Qiu. He asked him to speak in private. Qian Qiu pouted and unwillingly agreed. He had always been unhappy with Yan Su. If Yi Qing hadn't stopped him, he would have dragged Yan Su back to his room. Yan Su led him to a secluded spot. He cast a barrier. When Qian Qiu tried to approach the gate, Yan Su transformed into Di Cheng. Di Cheng coldly said, you let people cause trouble in Jinyao Temple. You are an incompetent leader. Qian Qiu's legs went weak and he kneeled down. His face was full of despair. He kept begging for forgiveness while cursing Di Cheng for playing tricks. After Chu Jun left Jinyao Temple, she felt like she was being followed, but whenever she turned around, the surroundings were empty. Mumu also noticed someone was following them, but they had already hidden. Chu Jun told Mumu to ignore it, and not to communicate with her mentally after entering the palace. Since Yan Su warned her to be careful, this wasn't a trivial matter. The palace trip was full of danger. Li Gonggong had already entered the carriage. "Princess, please," he said with a fake smile. Chu Jun glanced at the carriage. Then she got in, still saying whatever was on her mind. "I won't sit in a carriage that an old, ugly eunuch has ridden." Li Gonggong almost choked. He could only yell, "Let's go." After the carriage left, Nanji stepped out from a distant corner. Li Gonggong was there. It wasn't convenient for him to speak. But why was Chu Jun entering the palace now? Arriving at the palace, Chu Jun followed behind Li Gonggong, wondering, the accusations were not enough to make the emperor want to kill Chu Mingyu. Why was he protecting him? Did Chu Mingyu have something important from the emperor? Did Chu Mingyu awaken some special bloodline? Chu Jun looked enlightened. It seemed Chu Mingyu chose to sacrifice himself. After understanding, Chu Jun laughed. This self-preservation method was truly a tradition of the Chu family. Li Gonggong, hearing her laughter, turned back with a frown. "Princess, you can still laugh now. I'm afraid you're happy too soon." Chu Jun didn't care. "I'm happy to see my savior soon. And I'll settle the debt for that palm strike on Hudabiao with you." Li Gonggong didn't take her words seriously. He just chuckled and said, "Please, princess." But after turning around, he secretly thought, "I didn't think Chu Jun was anything special, but now it seems she is definitely not someone to mess with." The moment Chu Jun entered the palace, she sensed a malicious gaze upon her, but she kept her expression and walked towards the emperor. The emperor smiled, "Good child, I heard you were the one who found the demon. Your contributions will be remembered." Chu Jun cursed inwardly, "You unfilial descendant, you only know how to talk." But she raised her voice, saying, "It's my duty to share your burden, your majesty. I've long heard of your love for the people, and seeing you today, you are truly a wise ruler." She went on with a string of flattery. Her eyes grew cold. The old emperor and Zhu Wu were dumbfounded. What kind of act was this? Chu Mingyu was full of resentment. If not for Chu Jun, he wouldn't have fallen into this situation. After finishing her flattery, Chu Jun met Chu Mingyu's gaze. She pointed at Chu Mingyu and said, "Why aren't you confessing your crimes to His Majesty and the people?" Chu Mingyu didn't react for a moment. Chu Jun continued, "I, your daughter, am willing to share the burden, so I will kill this demon on your behalf." The demon's act shocked everyone. One moment she flattered the emperor to pave the way. The next moment she wanted to kill the demon and help the emperor. She turned towards Zhu Wu for a weapon. Zhu Wu, without another word, handed over his blade. Chu Jun raised the blade, targeting Chu Mingyu's waist. "Prepare to die." Chu Mingyu was horrified. He never thought that Chu Jun's series of actions would ultimately aim to kill him. He shouted, "Your Majesty." Just as Chu Jun was about to strike at Chu Mingyu, the emperor's voice echoed, "Chu Jun, I will handle this myself. You may step down." His voice carried immense pressure, suppressing Chu Jun's ability to act. Chu Jun sneered inwardly, "He's afraid his duck is about to fly away." She said with a smile, "I was reckless. This demon deserves to be hacked to pieces to appease the people's anger." Zhu Wu was shocked by her bravery. She was not afraid of offending the emperor. The old emperor was also secretly suspicious. Her actions were indeed unusual. The emperor's face was a mix of shock and anger. He couldn't say anything. Just then, a figure walked in from outside. "I agree with Princess Chu Jun, killing the demon is the only way to appease the people." Ji Yuzhen's appearance was filled with righteousness. The emperor's face darkened, while his expression grew increasingly solemn. Chu Mingyu continued to be a laughingstock. She turned to Li Gonggong. "Li Gonggong, you brought the witness. Everything must have evidence." Before Li Gonggong could reply, Chu Jun spoke first. "The witness was already murdered by Li Gonggong. But don't worry about the evidence, it's simple." Chu Jun sneered. Chu Mingyu suddenly felt something was wrong. He didn't know what Chu Jun was planning. Chu Jun said, "The esteemed state preceptor Jiyu is righteous. Let him use a truth spell to determine the truth." Ji Yuzhen also agreed, but Zhu Wu and the old emperor were hesitant. The problem was, even if Ji Yuzhen could determine the truth, would the emperor allow him to? Sure enough, the emperor spoke, "My child, this is related to the royal family's reputation. Before there is any evidence, don't forget that Princess Zhong is your kin." The phrase "my child" made Chu Jun's heart tremble. But she politely said, So, your majesty means if there is evidence, he can be killed for the sake of the people. The emperor nodded, of course. Chu Jun glanced at Chu Mingyu. That's wonderful. Chu Mingyu was suddenly panicked. All the evidence had been erased. Where did Chu Jun get her confidence? Suddenly, a voice came from outside. State Preceptor requests an audience. The emperor's expression became unfathomable, but he had no choice but to allow it. Zhu Wu frowned. Isn't Di Cheng in seclusion? Why is he here now? Chu Jun and Ji Yuzhen remained calm. They saw a tall figure walk in. His face was cold and spotless, like snow from a distant land, without any trace of impurity. The powerful demon lord took action. He killed the emperor's trusted attendant in front of his face. The series of actions shocked everyone. Everyone was speechless, but the emperor didn't blame him. He said Li Gonggong deserved it. Just as Chu Jun and the emperor were arguing, Di Cheng suddenly requested an audience. After a symbolic bow to the emperor asked Di Cheng why he came out of seclusion early. Di Cheng coldly said, to handle a matter. Without waiting for the emperor to speak, Di Cheng went straight to Li Gonggong. He didn't even look at the emperor. Li Gonggong's expression changed. The pressure from Di Cheng made him tremble. Di Cheng looked down at him and asked, which hand did you use to harm people in my Zhenyao temple? Li Gonggong broke out in cold sweat, stammering, State Preceptor. Di Cheng's eyes instantly darkened. You won't answer. Then it must be your right hand. As they spoke, chaotic power gathered, a force that made his arms twist at horrific angles with two cracking sounds. Li Chun cried out in pain, then, forcing himself through it, said, State Preceptor, I'm here by the Emperor's order to take someone from the Zhenyao temple. The power surged from Di Chen's body, Wolf King manner. Li Chun, are those two arms not enough? The Emperor then spoke from afar. Enough, Li Chun. I ordered you to take someone, not to injure the people of Zhenyao temple. The loss of your arms is not an unfair price. Step back. Li Chun trembled, glaring at Di Chen before retreating. Chu Jun was impressed. Wow, Di Chen is that strong. The old demon and the King Zhu were also shocked. Only Di Chen is daring enough to act like this in front of the Emperor. It's truly eye-opening. The Emperor coldly cautioned Di Chen to respect his elders. Chu Mingyu sensed something was wrong. Di Chen had been in seclusion. Di Chen was a factor he had failed to calculate. The Emperor, fearing Di Chen might cause more trouble, decided to deal with the situation himself. Now that this is done, I must return to the palace. Di Chen said, before I leave, I will take Princess Chu. Chu Mingyu's face fell. This is what he feared most. The Emperor's eyes narrowed, thinking about the current situation. Chu Mingyu exclaimed, by what right do you take me? I refuse to go. Di Chen calmly said, the Grand Princess is implicated in a case. Until the truth is revealed, Zhenyao Temple will take her into custody. The Emperor also tried to help Chu Mingyu. There's no substantial evidence. The Grand Princess might be innocent. Di Chen's voice remained calm. Your Majesty, the Sword Saint and Elder Li are hunting a demon in the capital, causing much unrest. That demon escaped nearby and has Chu blood. I didn't think it would go there. The Emperor's face paled. That demon escaped into the forbidden area. Di Chen used this chance to ask the Emperor for another blood seal to dispatch people to the forbidden area. Chu Jun now understood that the other blood seal was in the Emperor's hands. Di Chen said, the forbidden area is very dangerous. Those with high cultivation levels will only attract more danger. So those sent won't be above 1000 level. Please rest assured. The Emperor was flustered. Everyone, leave. State Preceptor and Grand Princess, stay. The Emperor looked worried, turned and left. He also shook his head to Chu Jun, a warning without words. Chu Jun looked at Di Chen, unfazed. She had a feeling that Di Chen wasn't her enemy. Chu Mingyu looked back at the entrance. Things were spiraling out of his control. Gambling point. The demon Emperor protects the pact. After which, he started eating his small form's food. The wise demon didn't recognize that these two forms were from the same person. When Di Chen said he was going to take Chu Mingyu and dispatch people to deal with the demon in the forbidden area, the Emperor dismissed everyone else, leaving only Di Chen and Chu Jun. Outside the hall, Old Demon and King Zhu worried about Chu Mingyu. They wondered if the State Preceptor was on the old hag's side. King Zhu sighed. It seems His Majesty is intent on protecting Chu Mingyu. Old Demon thought, with the demon in the forbidden area, Di Chen is going there to silence them. Chu Jun was confused. Does the Emperor trust the state preceptor so much? Old Demon explained, if he didn't trust him, how would he entrust Jinya Temple? Little one. Leave the temple as soon as possible. King Zhu noticed Old Demon taking advantage of Chu Jun, and decided not to be left out. Why bother with the Jinyao Temple? Go enjoy life. Chu Jun understood their intentions. These old men are after some benefits. She suddenly stopped. I have something to attend to. I'll take my leave. Both old men were worried. Be careful. Chu Jun walked to a deserted place. In a flash, she appeared on the wall. The Emperor reacted as expected, but Di Chen's arrival surprised her. Yansu, you fox. You actually found the state preceptor as backup. Looks like my cousin Isnt telling me everything. Once I go back, you'll have to teach him a lesson. As Chu Jun flew across the wall, Di Chen called out to her, message. Chu Jun stopped. She landed gracefully. After yelling careful, Di Chen faltered as well. Chu Jun greeted him politely, but was secretly judging his eccentricity. Di Chen simply asked her to leave the palace with him. Chu Jun agreed and asked, what will the Emperor do with Chu Mingyu? Di Chen told her Chu Mingyu was under house arrest. Chu Jun exclaimed. As expected, the state preceptor is amazing. Di Chen walked straight to the carriage, entering first. He then turned and asked Chu Jun. Chu Jun immediately asked, is the state preceptor going to send me off?